Hello, and welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is episode 10. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have misophonia. I'm a little under the weather this week, but I think it's only affecting the sound of my voice. The interview is totally fine. It was recorded a couple months ago. In it, I'm talking to Sim, who goes to university up in Ontario, Canada. She's studying to be a nurse, so we talk about that, about the experience of living with roommates for the first time, new friends at university, and what her family thinks. A couple little announcements I wanted to make. I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast yet, but I actually created a playlist of songs on Spotify. Songs that aren't necessarily the usual nature sounds or background noises that you use for coping. These are more songs that either capture how you feel when dealing with miso, or just songs that sound like they might be about misophonia. Anyways, the playlist is called the Misophonia Podcast Community, and I made it collaborative, so actually anyone can add their own contributions once you follow the playlist. I just thought it'd be kind of fun, and there's already a few dozen people following. Another thing I want to announce is that on Saturday, April 25th in Minneapolis, I'll be doing a session about misophonia at a tech conference I do every year. Now, this conference is totally free. It's mostly about tech and startups, but it's unusual in that anyone can offer to present a topic, and then you just get a room to present, and people can choose which sessions they want to go to. My miso one, I think is related to tech because so many of us are in open offices. But anyways, if you're around, you can feel free to just sign up and come on down. The whole day is fun, informal. It's totally free. There's free food, a large space at the Best Buy headquarters with lots of corners to hide in when people are eating. There's a free happy hour. There's free childcare. And and we can just kind of all hang out in a room and talk about miso. If you want more info, I actually created a Facebook event that you can find on the Facebook page, or email me at hello@misophoniapodcast.com. And speaking of email, you can still email your address if you want a sticker. I've got still got tons around, sending a bunch out this week, but just email me your address and I'll send some your way. And please send pics of wherever you stick them, and it's always fun to see where people are putting these. All right, enough of all that. Let's get to my conversation with Sim. So welcome, Sim. Glad to have you on the podcast.
Yep, glad to be here.
I guess so. Tell me a little bit about you. I guess starting like where are you located?
So I'm located in Canada, and I am a university student. I'm studying nursing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot we can talk about with nursing. The profession itself can be kind of a you're obviously going to be in a hospital environment, so there's a lot of mouth noises. But let's start with student life over where you are.
So I live close to campus, not on res, but I live with roommates, and that can be interesting too.
Do the roommates know about this, or is it something they're hiding?
Yes, they do, because I feel like it's just better to be upfront about things rather than just harbor resentment over something that they don't know about.
Yeah. Did you know them before, or
No, I did not. No, I did not. So we all met through like a housing page, and I was the last one to join the group, so they'd already formed a little group and they were looking for a fourth person, and that's kind of how we met. So I didn't actually know them, and it was my first time doing something like that, so I was very nervous, but it worked out very well actually, because we're all very close now, and they're awesome people.
But did they start? How long did it take for you to talk to them? No, I was gonna say confront, but talk to them about it, or was it kind of right away, or did they start to trigger?
Well, it was actually one of my roommates that had brought up the fact that she doesn't like loud typing in class, and she doesn't like chewing noises, like her own personal experience with that. And so then that kind of just made it easier, because I just jumped in and I was like, well, yeah, me too, except for also this and also this.
And did you know at that point that it was that it had a name, Misophonia? Did you say, hey, this is misophonia? And
I don't I did know that it does have a name, because I've joined like Reddit pages and stuff, so okay. I knew that, but for some reason I just avoid using the for no particular reason. I just feel like most people just don't know what it is. So it's just easier and more better understood when I just say, oh yeah, I have a problem with these noises. It would be nice if more people new.
That's kind of what we're trying to do. Yeah. In the past, it was called selective sound sensitivity syndrome, and it's, I guess now we've settled on misophonia. But anyways, going back to your roommate. So, did your roommate did your roommate actually call it misophonia too, or is she just kind of
She does.
okay?
She does. But yeah, we haven't talked about it much since then. But yeah, she does say that she has misophonia as well. So it's very, I guess, coincidental that we both ended up living
Got
together.
it.
So everyone else is super like good about things like that. Like when we all watch a movie together, we don't typically snack
Mm-hmm.
because it like both of us, it bothers the both of us. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea before rooming with her that, that was the case.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's great. So half your house is that's your whole house is kind of respectful because
Yeah.
half of you have it. So, are there any other kinds of accommodations that your other roommates do for you? They're just
So what
careful around you, I guess.
I mean, I've also like I will if something bothers me and I think it's like I feel like we have certain things that we do they'll do and I think that that's within reason, then I'll just kind of remove myself from the
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't expect we I guess my roommate and I don't expect everyone to, walk
Yeah.
like tiptoe around us.
Right. But at
Um,
least they'll right, and so you can remove yourself, and they won't be like, "Oh, this. Why is she just taking off?" Yeah.
and it's not made a big deal. It's just like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's great. That's a great equilibrium there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, it sounds like you should hang on to these roommates for the entire your university career.
Well, it's funny because I've had to make accommodations as well. Because one of my roommates, one of her triggers is the typing noises on like a
Mm.
keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that doesn't bother me that much. Like for me, it's mainly like mouth noises, like chewing and
Yeah.
like smacking and like breathing noises that trigger me. So we have different triggers, even though we have the same like issues with noise. It's different triggers. So it's like we
Right.
both have to accommodate for each other too. So it's been interesting, and I've never like lived or even had a friend that had misophonia, so it's like interesting now to
To be
like
on the other side. Yeah.
to be on the other side. Yeah.
And so how's like so basically you guys probably study a lot just at home then, I
Yeah.
would imagine. Going out to the library is kind of a horror story in a lot of places, cafes and whatnot.
I mean, I have like what I like will call like degrees to like my studying. If I'm just doing like some work where I bought a pair of headphones that honestly I'm like not even exaggerating, but changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been taking those if I know I'm going to be spending time on campus or for things that I can't avoid. Like if I have like a group meeting where I know I'll have to be on campus, I'll take my headphones with me. And
Which headphones are they?
they are the WH-1000X M3.
Are they the noise canceling ones?
Yes, they are.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I know those ones. Yeah. Similar to the Bose, the Sony version of them, yeah.
Yes, that's what I was debating between the two of them. I can't remember now why I settled on Sony, but I don't think it was anything significant. Yeah, but it was between the Bose
They're
noise
close
canceling
enough.
ones
Yeah, yeah.
and the Sony ones. But yeah, so these have made a huge difference for studying on campus because it can be really, really difficult. Because even like silent study in the library, like crinkling of wrappers and all that stuff, like drives me crazy.
Yeah.
um, but
Do you
yeah,
do
for the
you,
most, yeah.
do you need the big ones, or do you carry any little ones as well for just kind of even more portability?
No, I carry these big ones with me everywhere
Gotcha. Yeah.
almost.
Okay. Yeah. No, that
It's
works.
not that hard though because I have a backpack, so I just throw them in I just keep them in
Yeah.
my backpack. So yeah.
Yeah. I tend to wear some Bluetooth ones around my neck usually, and then I like to
Mhm.
keep ones that don't need any kind of batteries in case anything fails. So I keep ones that
Yeah.
I can just kind of plug in that are
Oh,
powered by the
okay.
phone too. But
Yeah, I carry the charging wire with these with
yeah.
me.
Okay. Yeah. So you're totally prepared. That's great. Um, and so in nursing, are you doing any work in a hospital environment yet, or you're still just studying?
It is my first year of the program,
Mhm.
and so far we work with standardized patients who it's just a fancy word for an actor
Uh-huh.
who they're not actually a patient, they're just an actor and they're playing a role. So I haven't come across, so like when we do things like, um, there's not much eating and noise involved with that because they're not actually a real patient, so they wouldn't actually be taking pills, and they wouldn't actually be, like
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't be walking while they're eating lunch or something. So far I haven't really. I am in a hospital setting, but I would almost argue that I'm not really because everyone there is an actor.
Yeah, gotcha.
um, but in January with the new year, I will start my first like placement. So I'm sure that'll come with its own challenges with being in a hospital setting, and I have no idea where I'll be. So
We'll have to maybe check in with you again on the podcast in about a year
yeah,
then.
sure.
Very cool.
I I'm anticipating that there's going to be some challenges with people in hospitals sometimes are recovering from surgery, so they
Hmm.
can't chew their food or they're fed through alternate ways,
Right.
and even the breathing noises of the machines and all that. So it might be interesting. And yeah,
Yeah.
ever since I've gotten these headphones, I've relied on them a lot. So I can't do that in the hospital. So I wonder how.
Yeah, I might have to go to smaller ones or just kind of time box, like realize that, okay, I got to do this for this amount of time. I find that, or people have mentioned that also it helps to know that, okay, I have this job to do between this half an hour and then everything will be fine after. And then it kind of
Hmm.
helps that half an hour go by and,
Yeah.
they can hear whatever they are subjected to during that time. And it kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
For me,
yeah.
I find that before this, I used to work as a support worker. So there was a lot of, uh, noises involved with that too. But I found that that was a lot easier to cope with because you're like that's your job, you're there
Hmm.
for a reason, you're being paid to be there. So it's not that bad, whereas when I'm like just minding my own business and I'm on my own time like studying or something, it'll tend to annoy me a lot more because I'm not prepared for it, and also B, I'm like, this is my own time, I should not
Yeah, just shut the F up. Yeah.
yeah.
And do you find when you're like stressed that like, during exam time and whatnot, is it did it get worse?
1000%. Like
Hmm.
it is so heavily coordinated with like my stress level. Like if I'm in a easy, like if it's summer vacation, I'm off of school, and I'm somewhere in like Mexico or the Bahamas, like it wouldn't bother me as much. Whereas if it's exam season, I'm in the library in the silent study part of it, and there's even like a little bit of noise that usually wouldn't trigger me at all, but because I'm stressed, I feel like I am more like almost hyper aware.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Yeah, so going back, I guess, to maybe origins, when did you first realize that you had the, I guess maybe, how long do you remember having triggers?
Um, Honestly, I don't have like, oh my, like I don't have like a moment where I like realized, or
Hmm.
I can't recall like the earliest memory of, me realizing that like I'm not okay with that. Um, for me, I would say I definitely realized by the time I was in like later in school age, like middle school, high school.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like I've always within my family, I'd always be annoyed by like certain family members because of the way they chewed, but I just thought that maybe they were just obnoxious chewers. But then later I realized no, like it's more than just a chewing, and like but I would argue it was later. It was definitely like, or at least my awareness of it was later, like
Yeah,
after not as a child.
got it. Yeah, yeah. It seems to be usually kind of sometime around middle school. I've heard
Yeah.
as early as 8, and then I also heard talking to somebody it's started around 14. So yeah, around that
Yeah,
time.
around then, yeah. Definitely not as a child. I don't recall any moment where I was like aware of even like things beyond like, yourself.
Yeah, and family members generally who were kind of the first triggers.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It was family members. Like I would, as a child, when like, you eat dinner with your family, I remember that being fine. But then later, I just remember like not being able to
Yeah.
eat dinner
So what
with
did you
the family.
do? Did you kind of did you do the
Yeah.
usual our usual behaviors of glaring followed by maybe just
Yeah, and then I realized
Getting
I
up
was
and
waking up
leaving.
and yes, just getting up and
Yeah.
leaving. Or I'd be like glaring at like my mom, and I know she can't control it, so I'm like, what is going on? This is just madness. Like I should just like remove myself, and I feel like it would just be easier. So yeah, no. And it's not all family members. It's just like
Yeah. And was it, do you have a lot of siblings?
I have a sibling,
Oh,
and
siblings.
we always have meals together. And that's another thing with me is I don't like eating meals alone. I think like meals are meant to be like shared, so it's like really hard to balance the two with like I like to go out with my friends for like lunch or like coffee, and I like to like eat dinner with my sister. Like I don't like to always just be alone and eating. So what we do is sometimes we'll like play a movie really, really loud, not sit so close. So yeah, I don't have many siblings, but I do have a sister.
Got it. Okay. And was your sister also trigger? Was mainly parents and extended family too, maybe?
Yeah, it would be like yeah, with like some like of my cousins and like when you're at family events and stuff.
Getting up and leaving was kind of your coping mechanism. Was there anything
Well,
else?
I feel like I was less direct. Like I would just be like, I'm not hungry right now. I'll eat
Yeah,
later.
be a little
Or
diplomatic.
yeah, I just ate. So I'm not hungry yet. Or
Oh,
I'll
so
eat.
you try to avoid the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Were
and I'll
you?
just eat later. And I would just eat later. And I didn't even realize kind of like why I was doing that. Because also you're in that phase of
Mm,
your life where you're in high school and you're not wanting to do as much with your family anymore
mhm.
anyway. And you're also developing your own life. So sometimes it would actually be that like I had dinner at like a different time because I had this going on or that going on. And so it kind of just worked out in my favor, I guess. And then, yeah, shortly after high school, I moved out for university. So
Mhm.
uh, I had more control over like when I ate, who I ate with, what I ate, everything.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. So was it affecting school at all when you were like in high school and whatnot? Or
um,
was it pretty much limited to like what was happening at home?
yeah, I don't remember being at school and being like annoyed with it ever, just because I feel like everyone well, we had a cafeteria, but no one really ate in the cafeteria. Everyone kind of ate like wherever they wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, so no, I don't really remember it ever being like an issue where I felt like trapped somewhere and like I had to like sit there and endure like this noise for the most part in high school.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't notice it at school either. So luckily, or else I would have like killed my grades probably. But yeah. So what tends to happen to a lot of people is that yeah, kind of you get more control as you know go to university, and then obviously as you have a job and you find your own place to live. But also the triggers can kind of start to expand. So it kind of expands beyond family. So it seems like for you too. Um, it's, it could be roommates, it could be people in the library. So has it expanded to other triggers as well, types of triggers, or is it still mainly just kind of mouth stuff?
For the most part, it is just like I know that like common triggers for people are like typing. I know like tapping your leg or something. Um, but yeah, for me, it's still just mainly mouth noises like breathing, chewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Anything
mouth.
visual too, like this, what was it,
Yes, yes,
misokinesia. So, yeah, that's
yes.
I've heard about that a lot, and I've picked up some of that too. So it's kind of it's almost like an anticipation of a trigger can be a trigger in itself.
I definitely, like when I'm picking a spot in the library, I do like a quick scan all the time. I'm like, no, and it's like, I know
Yep.
I do. It's like, I do a quick scan. I'm like, okay, well, this person has like a crinkly water bottle that I know is going to make a lot of noise. So no, thank you. And I see a bunch of like granola bars that aren't even open yet. And I'm like, yep, hell no.
Yeah, well, it's our coping mechanism. It's I mean using our eyes to kind of like weed out because that's the when you're trying to grab a seat, that's the one moment when you do have control. So it's like, okay, I can control now where what I'm going to hear to the best of my ability, and your eyes can kind of help you with that. So that's probably why they're kind of linked. Not a doctor here, but
Yeah, I also find it interesting because sometimes I'll have my headphones on and I honestly cannot hear a thing.
mm,
But if I see somebody just like and I can't hear anything. But if I see someone like smacking their lips while they're like chewing gum or eating, that'll bother me too. And it's almost one of those feelings where you're like, okay, well then just don't look, like just continue doing what you're doing, don't look. But it's like I can't like not focus on it. Like once it catches my attention, I'm aware of it. It's like it'll bother me.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, I totally get that. Um, and so, and do you tell anybody else outside of your roommates, like at any of your other friends at school and whatnot?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No,
Did you? I mean, did you
I
even tell your family at all at any point?
yes, my family is very aware of it.
Mm. Around when did you do that? Was it back in high school or after you
Yeah,
left?
like in high school, and I would be like, I can't control it. Like this is something that like I like can't control. So it's like, because they would think like, oh, you're just being annoying. Like they didn't fully understand. They were
Yeah.
like, you're too picky. Like your life doesn't revolve around how you want it to work. And I'm like, I get that, but
Hmm.
I can't control it. Like I
Hmm.
can't like switch it off almost.
And that was after you
Um,
knew that Misophonia had a name. I'm
yes,
imagining.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Did you give him any articles or?
Um, for, like even though they didn't understand it, they were just kind of like, okay, that's you, you're weird. But I don't think they understand that it's something that's it's not just me. It's not like a quirky trait that I have. It's like
Right, right. No, yeah, I'm wondering if you I don't, yeah, if you shared with them any of the news articles or videos that are around to kind of like help them realize
yeah.
that it's a bigger thing.
I wonder. I don't know. My grandparents just have this theory that everyone's getting more and more sensitive and weaker.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they're always like, we've never heard of these issues growing up. Nobody we knew had this. Like,
yeah. Interesting. And are your grandparents triggers too? That's a
yes,
common thing.
yes, and
Yes.
I love them. Like they are my favorite people. They're my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
adore my grandparents. But when it is tea time, like 4 o'clock at my
Oh
house, I
God.
know that
Yeah.
I can't be
I can
downstairs.
hear it
I can't be in the
already.
same
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're of Indian descent like I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can picture the room already. So yeah.
Yeah, huge. So I'm just like, rather than like fight it, I remove myself because some things you just have to accept are not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the same way that, you can't change, right?
Right. Interesting. So, and have you, other than these magic pair of headphones that you carry around,
Yeah.
and you're, you know, eyeballing the room as you enter, are there any kind of other therapies that you've tried, like, talking to audiologists or therapists or,
No, honestly, I haven't. And I don't have a reason for not. I just haven't.
I mean, there isn't really a cure, so it's like, you probably hear a lot of the same stuff that you would hear, Googling at this point. Unfortunately, there's still research going on, but.
No, and I feel like just the way with what my lifestyle is right now, the coping mechanisms that I have right now have been working
Hmm.
really, really well. Again, like when I start working and you're in like a different environment where, these things might not work as well, where you don't have as much control over like where you're
Different
gonna
stresses
spend,
too. Yeah.
yeah, different stresses. And like right now I have a lot of control over, like the only time I don't really have control is like when I'm in classrooms and stuff. But I mean, that doesn't make up a large part of my day. Whereas when you're working, it's 8 hours. Well, as a nurse, it's 12 hours of your day. You don't really have much choice. Like you're kind of confined to that environment and where you are. So I figure that when I'm in a different phase of my life, it might push me more to like try other therapies
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
the ones I have might not work. But yeah, just for where I'm at right now, the headphones have literally changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's great.
and spending most of your time at school where a lot of areas are silent study and a lot of people, appreciate that too and are pretty good with that. I feel like I'm pretty good and lucky. And I got lucky with my roommates because, there's another one of us here. So half of the apartment is dealing with the same thing. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, why.
Yeah. No, that sounds like you have a relatively, knock on wood.
It was actually really funny. So for a lot of my classes, we have this thing where we do group norms.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's things like, like laptops. Are we all cool with laptops? Are we all cool with using like a cell phone in class? So everyone, and it has to be unanimous. So it was really funny because when it came to, is everyone okay with eating during class? I didn't put up my hand because I was hoping that we didn't, like, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
But I just realized after that everyone was looking at me, and the instructor was like, okay, well, it has to be unanimous. Like, we can't do it if like someone isn't like agreeing with it. And I realized I was the only person in the whole entire group that didn't raise their hand. And it was a fairly big group.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's like something that I felt so strongly about. I guess like other people don't even realize, like they were like, why isn't this girl putting up her hand? Like, and so I just
Mm-hmm.
like raised my hand. I was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. And she's like, are you sure? Don't feel pressured. I was like, no, I guess it's okay. Like, I don't want to be the only person and then everyone just,
Mm-hmm.
resenting me for it.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, sitting in lectures and in a school, like eating is a huge thing these days. Um, and when you're in class, are you usually sitting in the front or the back? That's an interesting question because there's pros and cons.
Yeah, I usually, it depends on the room, but a lot of my classes are smaller, so it doesn't really matter where you sit. It's
Mm.
kind of all like, it's, yeah, like level. But if I do have a choice, I'll try to sit near the front.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because in the front, usually you might hear more from people behind you, but then in the back, I've heard that you can see everything. So,
Yeah.
but I guess in the small room, you're kind of screwed either way. So you just put your headphones on and sit in the front. I think that covers. Is there? So, first of all, I want to thank you, Sim.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who, are also in school and are probably have similar experiences and are going to be able to relate. Is there anything else you'd like to tell people who are kind of like listening and have never told anybody about this?
With the whole like telling people, I've always stuck to the route of like, you should just be upfront. And I know it's always like one of those things that some people might not understand because a lot of people haven't heard of it, right? Like a lot of people are not familiar with it, or they think like, oh my God, yeah, I hate when people chew with their like chew gum with their mouth open. It's so annoying. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a little more than that. It's a little more than just annoying for me. Like it's like it really it limits kind of like what I can do and how I can do whatever. So as soon as like they kind of understand that, I feel like everything is a lot more like I'm at ease. Like I can, whereas like I know it's hard to tell people that you're not that comfortable with, like roommates. So I know a lot of people that are moving out for the first time. Like that was one of my biggest worries when I moved out of home, like my house for the first time. I was like, how am I going to tell my roommate that I'm not cool with like snacking inside the room? I'm not cool with these things because you don't want to seem like uptight, or you don't want to seem, it's just an odd first impression, I guess.
Yeah,
But I've always found that whenever I'm very upfront with it and I like just do it like, hey, by the way, like this is kind of like part of who I am. And it's not all of who I am. It's literally like a very like not a small part, but I mean it's not all of who I am.
it's the one side. Yeah.
And I guess for some people, it's a lot. They identify with it a lot more.
Hmm.
But personally, I think it's not all of me. It's just like a small part of me. So when I address it like that, like, hey, this is not all of who I am, but it's part of who I am. I feel like people are a lot more receptive to it and understanding, and it's just worked out far, far better for me in that way, rather than like not telling anybody, it being like really not understood why you're never like having dinner with everybody else and all of that. Like I just feel like it's a lot, you feel a lot more at ease with it.
That's great. Yeah, that's great advice. Be upfront
Yeah.
and then also spread some awareness
Yeah.
and could
It's
find other people
spreading.
who might be suffering too, like your roommate.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have like you get to talk to someone about it. And you know what? It's very interesting being on the other side of it when I feel like sometimes when you don't talk about it too much, you think you're going through it alone. You think you're the only person. And you might not be very considerate of other people around you who, also have misophonia and just aren't, talking about it, because had my roommate and I not talked about it, I would never have known that my typing is setting her off and driving her crazy,
Hmm.
and she
Hmm.
would have never known that her chip chewing is like, driving me crazy. It's like you can be a respectful and considerate person for another person. Like you can be accommodating for another person if you share these things.
Well, that's great. Let's leave it on that. And good luck to you as you're going through school. And maybe in a year or so, we can have you back and talk about life in working in a real hospital or hospital with real patients. I mean,
yeah, with like actual patients.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Sim.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that chat, and I definitely wish Sim luck in the hospital environment. You can follow on Facebook or Instagram at Misophonia Podcast. Also on Twitter at Misophonia Show. My email again is hello@misophoniapodcast.com. And this podcast is on the web at misophoniapodcast.com. As always, please leave a review wherever you get podcasts. It really helps go up in rankings and reach more listeners who might have me. So, theme music is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.